Welcome, everybody. This is the first annual Liberty Watch Candidate Debate Forum. I appreciate everybody taking their time to come out and support the candidates and learn about their various positions and where they stand. I would like to give a little bit about Liberty Watch, and we'll kind of introduce who we are. We are a 501c3 nonprofit. We're here in Josephine County. I would ask you to visit our booth in the back. We have a 50-50 raffle that's going on. You have to be present to win. But some of the things that Liberty Watch does in Josephine County is we host this for the community. We do a lot of government accountability. We also have a ramps program. We've built 57 ramps within Josephine County at no cost for handicapped veterans. We had a 9-year-old child with palsy, and that's one of our programs. We donate our time and materials. We provide emergency training and
but some of the things that Liberty Watch does in Josephine.
A variety of things. We've worked on the parkside playground. We have passed over 11,000 pocket constitutions in Josephine County in the last 5-6 years. If you haven't gotten yours, they're on the back table for free. The schedule of tonight's events is I'd like to introduce to my right here is Bill Mayer. Bill's going to moderate the day. I'd like to give everybody a welcome and thank you for coming up to do that for us. So the schedule of events tonight is we are going to start with the clerk candidates, and we're going to give them 30 minutes. We'll then move into the sheriff candidates, and then we'll finish up with the commissioner candidates. The format's probably a little different, and we wanted to include everybody. There's a round table over here, and if you would like to have a question asked, please note which candidate and put your question on it. It's up to Bill's discretion if he gets to it or not. We're not controlling that at all. We want to make sure this is a neutral format for all of our candidates. So with that, I'd like to introduce the candidates on your right there. We have Jonathan Knapp, who's running for sheriff. We have the incumbent, Sheriff Daniels. We have Sandy Castanelli running for county clerk. We have Rianne Hinkle, that's currently the appointed clerk. Ron Smith running for county commissioner. And Darren Fowler also running for county commissioner. So what's going to happen is when they come up on stage, I'm going to ask the audience to respect the proceedings here. There are people around for security. If you do speak out, you're going to be asked one time, please don't do that. The second time, you're going to be removed from the forum. This is a Liberty Watch sponsored event, and we have the opportunity to control the environment so these candidates are shown respect as we go through the process. With that, what we will see is each candidate will be given 5 minutes as an opening statement. That position was just decided by coin toss. At the end of their opening remarks, the first candidate will ask their opponent a single question. They have 30 seconds to do that. Their opponent has 1:30 to respond, and then their opponent gets to ask them a question, and the same parameters of that. After that, we will go into the forum that Mr. Meyer will run and administer. Approximately 7 minutes before the end of that, we will hear a bell, and that bell signaling that each candidate is coming up on their 3 minutes to summarize their positions, and that's already been decided by the coin toss earlier. A couple housekeeping. Directly in back here are the restrooms if anybody needs it. We do have a refreshment table with water and cookies and things. Please feel free to assist in that. Also, if you have your cell phones, at this time, please turn your cell phones off and make sure they're off. We want to keep this as moving along as possible. The goal of the evening is for Bill to get as many questions to the prospective candidates as possible. The other thing on time is in the opening part of this, you're going to hear the bell ring. The candidates have been told if they choose to go beyond that, that will be deducted from their summary. So if they have 1:30 to respond and they actually go 1:40, we're going to take 10 seconds off of that 3 minutes at the end of it. So part of this is they were just made aware of the debate format. Nobody was made aware of that prior to it. It's been structured intentionally to get them thinking on their feet quickly. We won't see anything really canned, and hopefully we'll give you a true reflection of where these candidates stand and where we're going forward. At this point, is there any questions from the audience? Okay, has everybody filled out a question card for the candidates? Okay, with that, we'll open up, and I would like everybody to stand, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And with that, I will turn this over to Bill, and I would invite the first two candidates to come on up.
You can just give me a couple of minutes here. I'm still going through the...
So while Bill's working through things, I'll talk more about Liberty Watch.
That'd be great. I appreciate that. Thank you. There's a lot of questions here.
So part of what we're doing, a lot of folks will get the misperception that we're like a militia or anything else like that. That's absolutely untrue. Liberty Watch has been around for a long period of time. When we had the snowstorm a couple years ago, our people responded and we evacuated folks. We shoveled driveways, we sandbagged houses, we shoveled snow off of rooftops, we did a variety of things. With the recent wildfires, we have been providing evacuation assistance to people that were affected by level 2 and level 3 evacuations. We've sent our teams in, they routed the people out and got them out of harm's way. So that's what we do for Josephine County and this community. We put a tremendous amount of effort in. Here in the Josephine County Fairgrounds, the room that you're sitting in has been painted by Liberty Watch. The horse stalls painted by Liberty Watch. The arena fixed up by Liberty Watch. A lot of folks don't understand who we are, what we are, but we look to work within our community, develop relationships with our government partners, if you will. So in times of crisis, what we've seen with the wildfires, and we have seen Cascade or other things, we can come together as a community and be able to support everybody around and assist. So we do offer training and a variety of things. We meet here. This is our normal monthly meeting night. We always meet here the second Thursday of the month from 6 to 8 p.m. And then we also meet the fourth Thursday of the month, which is a training night. And that training night will cover everything from emergency medical preparation to ham radios to a variety of things, canning and different things like that. So there is no charge. Everyone's welcome to come and attend and get involved as much as you'd like. Are we good?
I think so.
Okay. And with that, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Fine.
We can do that. They want me to put this up on the podium. Okay, we have...
There we go.
Well, hello. You know, it's just like being at the radio station. The microphone doesn't work sometimes. Here, let's just give this another shot. Yeah. I think we got a problem there. How's that one? Yeah, this one's a little flaky. It's a conspiracy. You're right. It's Conspiracy Theory Thursday. What can we say, folks?
Hello.
I think it's a radio issue because
Yeah.
it was working up there but not down here for some reason.
Well, maybe I have to be up on the stage. That might have to be what we have to do.
That's where my camera's pointing anyway. So.
Okay. All right. I think we'll get this done. Here's, now that I just lose all of my... there we go. As you can tell, folks,
Just a little loosey-goosey as we get going. That's okay, we're going to get rolling. By the way, thank you so much. I'm Bill Meyer from KBD and KCMD. KCMD, by the way, if you haven't listened, 99.3 FM, that great show's here. Southern Oregon. No, you are. You are. Okay. Sandra, go ahead, stand up there. stand up there, grab your microphone there. We're going to go with the, as you know, the county clerk candidates first here. And Senator Casanelli, I guess the first thing we're going to do is why don't we just go through the basics for each of you. Describe the duties of a county clerk and what are the most important aspects of that.
Okay. I answer that. Well,
Can you hear okay?
Hello. Give her the microphone. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Can we do this?
yeah, that would make sense, wouldn't it?
This would be better. Basically, there's like 3 duties to the clerk. You have to run the elections, which is, horrific in some regards because it takes so long. And then there's recording. The clerk is responsible for recording a lot of documents. And then there is the BOPTA board, the Board of Property Tax Appeals. And, the clerk kind of facilitates all that. The applications from individual people get determined whether they can get their property reassessed. So it's pretty intense, and there's a lot to it. Is that it? Oh, okay. So that's it. Is there another question? Oh.
Okay. Now I've got a microphone. Now we can get this rolling. Get the party started. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. We kind of screwed this up, folks, didn't we?
Yes.
Let's start this again.
Thank you.
All right.
I thought you were getting 5 minutes.
That's right. The first thing you do is that you get the opportunity to ask your opponent a question. I'm going to come off the stage. You got a deal. Well, 5 minutes to do your spiel. How about that?
I hope everybody can hear me. Yes, we all get 5 minutes each to give our little spiel. And so my name is Sandy Casanelli, and a lot of people here already know who I am. I've been involved politically for the last over a decade, advocating for the citizens of Josephine County in a lot of different avenues. I was commissioner, and so I advocated for the little people then, and I advocated probably 90% of the time going to weekly business sessions and telling the commissioners, what I thought, I guess. So anyways, and in March, I noticed that our present clerk, our appointed present clerk, was running unopposed. So I says, in a county of over 80,000 people, surely somebody will run. And I waited to the very last day, and nobody else ran for the clerk's position, which really surprised me. I wanted to run to give the citizens an opportunity to vote in the voter's pamphlet. I hate getting my voter's pamphlet and seeing people run unopposed. To me, it's just kind of like un-American. So I threw my hat in the ring, and I decided that, you know what, the people of Josephine County, the electorate's going to have a choice in November. I would like to see a lot of things different in the clerk's office. I want to see more transparency, more accountability, and more fairness. And those are my hallmark goals, I guess, when I was commissioner. And I would like to continue that in the office of clerk. For more transparency, the process could be scrutinized by all the people, so that we have maximum security. For more transparency and cameras and everything, there's no reason why we couldn't televise the ballot area, especially in the evenings, which would allow all of Josephine County to monitor and safeguard the integrity of the process. Rather than just have security videos, we could actually have everybody who's up at 3 o'clock in the morning to actually look on live streaming and say, "Yeah, look, nobody's messing with the ballot." We could set up a system so that people overseeing signature verifications could actually see the signatures that are being, compared, looked at a remote desktop. And we could have a citizens review board where after the whole process of the election ballots are counted by the clerk, the volunteer citizen review board could pick various precincts and then hand count those to make sure that to verify that the tallies were correct. I'd like to see more fairness in the way that the clerk's office treats citizens. They should be done in an equitable way. There should be an even application of law for everybody in Josephine County, not just special interests. Let's have an open public process for the Board of Property Tax Appeals and Election Board appointments. When I used to go to the Commissioner's office, the first time I would know that there was a BOPTA board selection was when it went before the Commissioners and they approved the appointee to that board. Everybody should have an opportunity to apply for these boards. Photocopying charges should be reasonable and not the maximum amounts allowed by the state. I went in one time and one of the clerks walked over to a desk and then photocopied something, came back and charged me $5. And I'm just saying, this is a little steep. Well, the state allows that. That's a research fee. And I says, you know what, this is how much research did you have? You picked it up off a desk. So anyways, I want to see the transparency, accountability, and fairness. And that's my time up. Sandy Castanelli for County Clerk.
Ariana, it's your turn now for up to 5 minutes to explain what you're all about.
My name is Rhiannon Hinkles, and I have been in the clerk's office since April of 2006. I have worked under Georgette Brown and Art Harvey, as well as Tricia Myers when they were county clerk. I have done everything in the office, from being the deputy county clerk to chief deputy, office administrator, and now the appointed county clerk when the commissioners appointed me in June of 2017. I have been in the office and facilitated 23 elections since I've been there, and I have done everything from voter registration in the database all the way through ballot creation, ballot tabulation, certification. I've done the BOPTA board of property tax appeals since 2006 as well. I have the experience and the knowledge. I have been taught and mentored by Georgette Brown, Art Harvey, and Tricia Myers to run this office. I have ran this office since June of 2017, and I look forward to continuing to serve the citizens of Josephine County as Josephine County Clerk and Recorder. As far as my office and fees are concerned, yes, there is a state $3.75 research fee. If we have to research, if someone comes in, we have public access computers in my office that you can do your own research. We have books that you can do your own research in if you know what you're looking for. If you walk up to the counter and say you want your deed and you want it printed, yes, it's $4 for the first page, 25 cents for each additional page, and that is, again, statewide. As far as the Board of Property Tax Appeals and the appointments, that is something that the commissioners do appoint. I put in a request for them to put it on their agenda, and they move forward and appoint. As far as that's something we would have to take up with the Board of Commissioners. It's not something that my office, they facilitate. I'm the clerk of the board, but they are the one who do the appointments. And they have talked about doing it in years past, but it's never become something that they've done. I've oversaw the everyday, day-to-day operations of the county clerk's office for over 3 years. I've done the accounts payable, the budget, everything. It's small and everything in between. My office, the top 3 things that my office does was question. We do the land recording, we do elections, we do marriage licenses, we do passports, we do passport photos. We are the keeper of the record. So yes, the Commissioner's Journal comes to our office. Everything that's of record is filed in my office. Every budget is in my office, and it's public record. You can come in and review anything. I think that's it.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Okay, next we have the section in which we have the candidates asking each other a question. We're getting this nice rhythm here. Sandra, you get a chance to ask. By the way, you want to go with Sandra or Sandy? It doesn't matter? Okay, Sandy, it shall be then. Sandy, go ahead and ask Rihanna a question. And you have 30 seconds to ask it, and Rihanna has a minute and a half maximum to answer.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Tony. All right. Push the little knobby up. All right. Just my question is, my people had a lot of confusion with the sign. Uh-oh, I'm done? Well.
I probably started when she asked the question. Okay, let's try that.
Anyways, I would just like to know why on the guide to temporary signs that the clerk's office puts out that it says that signs must be removed within 60 days after the date of placement, because the ORSs do not say that.
So this is actually something that, yes, is on my website, but this was drawn up by Wally Hicks, the legal counsel, Josephine County Legal Counsel, and he received your email and he's reviewing it and he's going to update it. So that's something that he's provided, he's supplied. I just have it on my website, and that is being reviewed by him, and then when he's done with it, he will get it to me.
Rihanna, you can ask a question now of Sandy.
What qualifications and management skill sets do you have to run the county clerk's office?
Well, I guess I got a minute and a half. I can start by saying, I've had a lot of experience with office management. I mean, I cut my teeth on my father's business, honing business, starting out doing office management over there. Believe me, as commissioner, you get a skill set that is out of this world. You know how to deal with public who doesn't like you at some times, and you are solving problems all the time. You are thinking about things, about the law, which I kind of disagree. Wally Hicks says, specifically stated, that that 60-day maximum for signs is not a requirement for sign placement on private property. And it's very confusing to the public to have the clerk just say, oh, Wally Hicks drafted it, and that's what I'm going to follow. You have to be thinking, you have to know, what's going on, what the law is, and you have to have the ability to protect your citizens. In my belief, you can't take away their rights just because somebody in Wally Hicks' office has drafted something that is inaccurate. Thank you.
Very good. All right. Now we're going to do a few minutes of questions that you have submitted from the audience, and a few that kind of come to my mind too. And I'm going to direct this to I guess I'll just start with one first, and then the other can answer, and then we'll kind of reverse back and forth, so I'm not always starting with the same person. Sandy, we'll start with you on this one. Both of you can think about this one. You have either both dealt with the clerk's office or you have worked in the clerk's office. And given your experiences there, either inside or outside or beside it, what do you believe 2 or 3 action plans could be accomplished to make the clerk's office either more efficient, more open to the public, just in order to do a better job? Everything's good right now, I'm sure, but it can always be improved. So go ahead.
Good question. I have worked in the clerk's office. I was on the election boards for a number of years, way back. I started in Williams when we were all going to the polling places, and we each had to, submit our ballots at a polling precinct place. And then once it converted to mail-ins, I worked on the election boards on the mail-ins. I sat for 2 years on the BOPTA board, the Board of Property Tax Appeals, as a sitting commissioner, and I chaired 1 year, and that was really a nice experience because you really get to learn a lot about the whole aspects of property. Action plans, I'd like to see more availability to the public. Most of the people work in the county, and having the clerk's office closed during lunchtime doesn't give them the opportunity to go in and have their business transactions done. I mean, perhaps we could stagger the personnel so that lunches are not all taken at one time. More efficiency, I don't know. The statutes for all the procedures are in the Oregon Revised Statute or the Oregon Administrative Rules, and they're pretty cut and dry. All you have to do is follow them. And what I'd like to see is more accountability for the clerk following those rules and regulations, because I've seen too often, I can tell you from personal experience, what damage can be done when a clerk looks the other way when he doesn't follow the law. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Sandy. Leanna, same question for you then. You've been inside the clerk's office for a while, and I imagine you have some ideas also of how things could be improved.
So we did have staggered lunches in years past when we had more staff, and then with budget cuts and everything, we had to go to closing for lunch from noon to 1. We did a poll. We ticked every time someone would come in during that time. 9 times out of 10, they come in for a court issue. Well, the courts is closed noon to 1 for lunch as well. They think the county clerk is the court clerk. So it's been amazing for our office because we need that time to process things that we can't process when we are in the middle of passports. That's the Department of State, that's the federal government. There's strict rules that have to be followed and watched and done with those. So it gives us time to take time and do what we need to do in that hour when we don't have customers coming in. So my staff, we're fully staffed now. We do have a position coming up for a passport processor because we are the only passport acceptance facility in Josephine County. The closest one is in Ashland at SOU or the Rogue River Post Office and the Medford Post Office. They only do them by appointment from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. So there's days we do 22 passports a day. So with 3 staff members processing passports all day long, the hour lunch is to get everything that we need to do done for those passports and the other things that we need to get done. And as far as, my office and efficiencies, we're getting older documents to where they're on our public access computers, and that's an ongoing project that we've been working on and getting them indexed so that they are accessible to the public when they want to come in and research grandma's property way back when. So that's something that I'm working on.
Very good, thank you. What is We can spare the time. All right. I wanted to ask, and this is kind of a philosophical question for the clerk's candidates, and I don't know if there's much that can be done about this or not. Personally, I've talked with people over the years. We have a vote by mail system. In some ways, it's kind of a faith-based system. You know, we send it in, and we hope that we can tell that it was received to a certain extent, but we never really know if it was counted. We don't have a receipt for it. Is there anything that clerks could do to perhaps influence this? What might be done to truly have a transparent vote by mail system? Because as it is right now, they come in, and it's sort of anonymized, isn't it? I'll just direct it to you first.
As far as your ballot?
Yes.
Yes. So the Postal Service and the Oregon Association of County Clerks, which I'm a member, and all 36 county clerks in Oregon are members of, and we are actually in the process of getting that to where there will be like a mailing barcode that the post office, and then you can sign up for text messages, and it'll let you know when it's gone through the Postal Service, when it's left my office, all the way from then, all the way to when it's received by my office and delivered. And then as far as coming into my office and wanting to see your ballot, you can come in and observe the process. You can come and observe their stations during election time that you can come and watch signature verification. You can watch my ballot election boards process. As far as that process goes, once the ballot's received in, my signature verifiers, they count out ballots, put them in a storage box. They take them, they verify all signatures, everything's documented, every 300 ballots they receive that they process. If they have signature rejects have to go through the first signature verification plus 2 additional. It's my chief administrative supervisor and myself to verify if we feel that it is an invalid or a signature that doesn't match the voter record. And then from there, it goes to the boards, and they open the envelopes.
Yeah, I understand that. I guess is there a way, what I'm looking for is there a way to perhaps make this more transparent where it's not just, okay, it was delivered, can your ballot ever be verified that it was counted correctly in the system?
You can come and watch the system. You can watch the system and watch the process. You can go online and verify that your ballot was received in and accepted by my office, but that's as far.
But you can't tell how it was counted in.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. That answered the question. And Sandy, I'm going to direct this question to you then. Is observation of the voting process enough, or is there something that can be done to improve that as a clerk if you were elected clerk?
Well, the observations in the past have been not really conducive to the public actually getting to witness things. Like, I remember one year I went in to verify signatures, and they had tape on the floor, and they said you can't get any closer, than watching a woman, pull up the signature card and make sure it matched the signature on the ballot. And the person observing couldn't even read, look at the signatures, let alone, look for detail to see if, the signature verifier was accurate. I think that you could have, at a remote station, you could have a process where even if you had to set up a video camera looking over the shoulder of the video, the signature verification, so that the people who are looking to monitor the process can actually see the 2 signatures just like they can with the signature verifier. Vote by mail is pretty horrific. I wish we would still have, go to polling places, because I've seen ballots in the post office waste cans. There's horror stories of people passing away and their family voting, doing their voting. So, I don't like the vote by mail, but you know what, this is the system we have, and we just try to make it as transparent as possible.
All right, very good. Thank you very much. Thank both candidates. That was like right up to the time. Love that. All right, we're going to have the commissioner candidates come up right now. You know, we're going to get this right by the end of the night, I know that. All the rules were handed to me with about a minute or two to go, so pardon me as we catch up here. So, Sandy, you ended up starting.
Oh, I thought.
Yeah, you ended up starting.
Okay.
So this means that.
Wrap up, huh?
Yeah, you get to ramp up. So, Rihanna, you get to go right now with your. Give us your elevator pitch. It's a nice long elevator pitch ride. How many elevators do we have in Grants Pass in Josephine County?
So this is a summary based
Yes,
on?
it is.
Okay. So as far as what my opponent just explained about the observation process, there are rules and regulations as far as observation. An observer is there to observe the process. They're not there to partake in the process. I have had numerous letters and emails to my office when this has gotten brought up about people not wanting their signatures when they're verified across a big screen in front of everyone to see. If you receive a report or a copy of your voter registration record in my office and someone comes in and you come in and get your voter registration, it is not, your signature is blacked out. Your date of birth is blacked out. That's protection for the voter. So, I mean, you could try to do it, but it's just not something that people really want. They don't want someone, I wouldn't want someone verifying my signature as an observer. You're there to observe the process, not to be part of the process. So, just November 6th, when you get your ballot, they're going out October 17th, by the way. Just vote for me, Rhiannon Hinkles, for Josephine County Clerk and Recorder. Thank you.
I think I'm already on. Well, you know something, I didn't get to bring this up, and I thought it was really important.
Sandy, you can hold that close to your mouth. We cannot hear you.
Okay. I used to go to all the weekly business sessions, and I used to submit to the record items that I had written. And so in February, I wanted to find out if the commissioners were actually really submitting to the record the stuff that I was submitting. So I went to the clerk's office in February, and I said, please help me set up the public access terminal. I want to see the Commissioner's Journal. And it was like deer in the headlights. And they said, well, what month do you want? I said, well, it's February. How about the January Commissioner's Monthly Journal? No, we don't have that. How about December? No, we don't have that. How about November? No, we don't have that. October? No. September? No. August? No. They hadn't filed a Commissioner's Monthly Report for 10 months. April was the last time, April 2017 was the last time they had recorded it. Now, this is the official proceedings of the county commissioners. This is a record that is supposed to be available to the public, and it was not there for the public. If you elect me, I will make sure that such things get done in a timely fashion. I stand by my record. I have been an advocate for the citizens of Josephine County for the last decade, and I will continue to do that in the clerk's office. So in November, when you're voting, please consider voting for Sandy Casanelli for county clerk. Thanks.
How about a big hand for both candidates? It takes a lot to go stand up on a stage and talk to people. When I first started doing this job 38 some years ago, I just imagined everyone naked in the room. You all look great, by the way. I just thought I would mention that. Anyway, thank you for coming tonight. Hopefully we're going to learn even more as we go down our other roster of candidates tonight here. Now, from what I understand, next is going to be the county commission candidates. Am I correct on that? No. It's going to be sheriffs. Am I going to get anything right tonight? No. Okay, thanks. Hey, thanks for letting me know at least. Okay. We're going to work that. I probably have more questions then for the sheriffs than any other category for tonight. So why don't we have both come up here and introduce themselves. Take the 5 minutes or so, and we're going to, I'm just trying to, some people put a few things into the wrong pile while I was here. Hang on just a second. So gentlemen, come on up. Just a second here. Yeah, we do have a few things here. Okay. All right, thank you. All right. Okay, who won the flip on this one? All right.
Give them any time to use the restroom?
What's that now?
Do you want to give them any time to use the restroom or anything, or okay?
You go ahead. Yeah, that's all right.
Not me, Dan.
Oh, Dan? Okay. Do we want a little bathroom break? Okay, all right. We'll just let it roll then. We appreciate that. Okay. Jonathan, you want to introduce yourself and go ahead and take it away. You have up to 5 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you for coming out to listen to your candidates.
Yeah, close to your mouth, please.
Really close. Hello, hello, hello.
There we go.
Got to swallow the microphone. Thank you for coming out, listening to your candidates, and being prepared to make an informed decision. My name is Jonathan Knapp, and I'm running for Josephine County Sheriff. I've shared with people that I grew up here in Josephine County, graduated from Hidden Valley High School in the class of 1979, and then I left to serve in the United States Air Force. I served 4 years in the beautiful state of North Dakota. When it was time to re-enlist and do 4 more in North Dakota, I decided someplace else was warmer. So I went to work with the Salvation Army for 15 years. I was the finance officer for the southern half of the state of California, helping the Salvation Army units down there write their budgets, and then I traveled around auditing them to make sure that they kept their budgets and followed policy and procedure. Before going to Arizona and going to work with the 4th largest sheriff's office in the nation. I worked there for 18 years before I retired last year. 4 of those years in patrol, 14 years as a supervisor. I supervised patrol, property and evidence, court security, the hiring unit, and I wrote some of the policies and procedures for some of the new programs that they had. The last appointment I had was in the Court Security Division as the Administrative Sergeant. I worked as the liaison between the Sheriff's Office and the county to build a $300 million courthouse and build it with the specs needed so that the Sheriff's Office would have administration wings and holding cells for the 500 inmates that we took to court each and every day. In that appointment, I supervised 30 deputies and 100 detention officers on a daily basis. I retired in October to move back home. This is where I grew up. This is where my family lives. And I needed to be here for 1 year to run. So people want to know, why did I pick that time? Oregon requires that you be a resident 1 year before the election. So I worked up until the last day. I would still be working there if I didn't have to resign or retire to get 1 year residency in Oregon. I love my job. I love law enforcement. When I was working with the Salvation Army, I ran an alcohol and drug center in Tacoma, Washington. I opened the Salvation Army in McMinnville, Oregon. I was, as I said, a finance officer for Southern California. I did major disasters from Hawaii to Mississippi. So I've got a vast range of experiences. Combined 30 years in management positions and 18 years in a sheriff's office. When I put those two things together, it makes me uniquely qualified to manage a sheriff's office, such as the Josephine County Sheriff's Office. There are a lot of things that I want to do. My priority is bringing back the nighttime patrol, the evenings, the weekends. The residents of Josephine County deserve that, and they expect that. I live in the county. My 75-year-old mother lives in the county. We know what it's like if you have to pick up the phone in the middle of the night and call somebody and you're not going to get them. They're just not available. But I believe that the resources are there if properly managed, and that's not to say that the sheriff is mismanaging, but with my budgetary experience and priority experience, I believe that I can better use that budget to meet the needs of the residents that live in the unincorporated areas of Josephine County. I want to investigate every crime. A lot of people in Josephine County don't report crime because there's not anybody to answer the phone, or they don't believe it's going to get the proper investigation. Every crime needs to be investigated. Even if it's the fact that the squirrels knocked your flower planter off onto your patio and it broke, and you want somebody to come out and find out if that's where it really happened, at that point in time, that's the most important thing in your life. And so it needs to be the most important thing to the sheriff's office, to come out there and look at it, and then be able to tell you, hey, you've got some unruly squirrels, and we can't help you with that. But at least we cared enough to show up. So as your sheriff, that's my first goal, to be able to show up. Thank you.
Start timer. Good evening, everybody. My name is Dave Daniel, and I am your Josephine County Sheriff, and it's an honor to serve you. It has been an honor for the past 4 years. I started my law enforcement career in 1995 with the Grants Pass Department of Public Safety. I've been in law enforcement for 24 years, and it really is a privilege to be in this field. Mr. Knapp knows that. And 21 of those 24 years I spent right here in Josephine County. I've chased people, fought people, arrested people, took care of people with compassion. For 24 years here in Josephine County, I raised my family here. Both my kids are off to college, but it's been a pleasure. You know, I can stand up here and tell you, I got a master's degree. I went to Oregon State University and got a bachelor's degree. I have an executive, management, supervisory, basic, intermediate, advanced level of certification. But I stand on what I've done. The last 4 years, I took over this office, and it was in disarray. It was demoralized. And it's been a long road. It's been a long road of hope, for sure, for the last 4 years. But we're getting there. This ship is upright, and it's moving in the right direction. And I really, truly want you to know that. I'll probably state it again at the end over at the table over there. I have a pamphlet, and it basically dictates just that and shows you that in bar graph form of where we were decimated with 61 layoffs in 2012, back up to over 87 employees now. The hiring has been difficult. That's been kind of the snail's pace for us. Finding that qualified individual in an organization that doesn't quite pay as much as some of the organizations surrounding us, Jackson County, City of GP, OSP. You know, we have resident deputies now, and I am speaking of the 12-hour patrols at night. That is my priority as well. There's 12-hour patrols currently 7 days a week, in a 24-hour period. But I think with some new hires that I'm looking at hiring right now, I have to hire 8 new deputies this year. If I can find them, if I can find the qualified, that's going to go to a nighttime patrol. So that is my number one goal right now as well. But I also wanted to increase communication with our communities, North Valley, Murphy, Williams, Illinois Valley. So resident deputies, I started those, and it was a goal of mine, not necessarily a promise back when I campaigned. But the communication is very important, and citizens needed a liaison to get to our office. So they started September 1st, and so far the program is working fantastically. Civil division, some improvements. Went from 4 months to get a concealed handgun license down to 3 weeks. Incredible, and that's management, and that's just leadership and making things function properly. Deputies in our schools, we have them now. I have 3, I should say I have 1. I am hiring 2 more school resource deputies. How long has it been that our children have been left out in the cold when all these terrible things are happening around our country? As I stated, I've been here 21 years, been through a lot. Crisis management, the fires, the Mercer Belknap plane crash search. I've proven to be a leader that can actually take care of business, get things done properly. Evacuation levels are very important to me, just with this recent past fire. I had to call out and request the National Guard. I had to go to my Sheriff's Association, Oregon State Sheriff's Association, and request mutual aid from 5 different counties send deputies down here so they could, while you were pushed out of your homes, they could guard your homes at night. We just received a $600,000 grant for the investigations that I applied for the investigations into illegal marijuana operations. That's huge. Finding money outside, it's the second grant I've been successful at attaining. We got 10 treatment beds from Justice Reinvestment Funds to help try to stop the cycle of substance abuse. If they're outside the jail, they get in the jail, they get treatment. They get out of the jail, they get treatment. Because it's a little bit about rehabilitation too. I think probably most of you agree with me with that. SRS monies just came in. I have 3 more deputies coming, and then again those 2 school resource deputies. I promised long ago to look into the policy and procedure manual for the Josephine County Sheriff's Office. We've completed that. It wasn't done since 2010, and that's ridiculous in this law enforcement environment. Promise made, promise given. Is that the end of it, or is that time? What?
30 seconds.
30 seconds. I'm in this not for fame or fortune. I didn't do this just to cruise through a career. I didn't put on my signs, re-elect Sheriff Daniel. I want to get elected again and push this county forward in a positive direction. And that's where we're going. We're back. Thank you.
All right, next we're going to have candidates asking questions of one another. Jonathan, if you could ask a question of Dave Daniel.
My question is a simple one, but a very important one. What do you see as the greatest threat to Josephine County residents, and what do you as sheriff plan to do to address that threat?
Thank you, Mr. Knapp. I think the greatest threat overall, period, right now, well, short of nuclear war, but I think we're looking at really the nighttime patrols is very concerning to me. The greatest threat of the opportunity for an individual to go out at night unchecked is huge. The question is, how do we do it? It's not as easy as it sounds. The numbers, I've looked at them with budget, with my undersheriff. We've sat on, I've tried to go to 20. It's just not there quite yet. If I can get OSP to get our dispatch services covered, which I've already requested they assist us with, we'll get our deputies out there at night so we can start covering some people that otherwise, don't get the help they need.
All right, Dave, you can ask a question now of Jonathan.
Okay, Mr. Knapp, and it's a very short and very simple question, maybe not easy. What is we know that Josephine County has terrible funding historically. We're changing that. But we're not there yet. We're halfway to where I think we should be with detectives divisions and more. What are your specific plans for permanent, stabilized funding for Josephine County Sheriff's Office?
Taxes are that 4-letter word that nobody wants to hear, but the inevitable part of operating our government. So we have those 58 cents. 58 cents for years and years and years was enough to operate the sheriff's office and all of the functions in Josephine County. And I believe that if we properly manage our money, that 58 cents can do it again. But what we have to do is look at the priorities, and then we have to hold our commissioners' feet to the fire that the priority for the county commissioners is to make sure that law enforcement is funded. There are a lot of other things that we do in the county that are as important. Library is important. Schools are definitely important. The animal control is important. But law enforcement and the protection of the citizens of Josephine County has got to be the priority. And so working with the county commissioners, I want to slice out a piece of pie that makes sure that the sheriff's office becomes the priority. And if that means, I'm walking out of his camera, and if that means that we have to go to the county commissioners and ask them to lock in a budget for the sheriff's office and give the sheriff control of his budget so that he can operate the programs the way that they need to be run, then that's what we need to do. The money is there. We just need to be good stewards of it and show the people that we can provide the services that they need with the money that they need, with the money that they give us.
Okay, I'm going to ask a few questions here for the next few minutes, many of them submitted by you. I'll direct it, we'll direct it to Dave Daniel first, if that's okay. And then we'll kind of reverse as time goes on here. Probably the biggest emailed question that I received at KCMD from Josephine County over the last few weeks had to do with sheriffs that had gotten together and said they were going to support Measure 105, which would be the repealing of sanctuary status of Oregon. It's a big part of law enforcement this year. Do you support this? Why or why not? How important is this?
Thank you. I am in support of Measure 105, absolutely. Was there some misinformation when that came out? What happened in Measure 105 being the repeal of the sanctuary law, our deputies should be able to ask if a person is a U.S. citizen or not. Right now they can, and that's ridiculous. What happened was one sheriff up north went to the Oregon State Sheriff's Association and said, I want to do this. And great. Problem is what that did is that divided our Oregon State Sheriff's Association. We have to remain strong in front of the state. When that article came out, and be strong in front of the state, because there's many other causes we have to be unified and united on, not just this issue. But what concerns me is that right after that article came out, it doesn't concern me. I was on the phone with ICE the next day, talking to them about a sex offender who's in my jail that I wanted out. He's going to do about a 6-month term, and welcomed ICE to come in and interview that individual for the purpose of them conducting their official business, and upon his release, getting sent back to his native country. So if that tells you anything about where I stand as far as the immigration laws in the sanctuary state, I'm all for the repeal of 105.
Yeah, that was different from what you told me in an email earlier. You were kind of agnostic on that. Was that true, or?
No, not at all. Because what happens is when you have one article, the Daily Courier, I'll just say it, comes out with an article. Not everything I said is repeated right. I probably should have wrote it down for them. But I was neutral on the issue of one sheriff putting this out, as was Sheriff Sickler in Jackson County, and there was only 16 sheriffs that actually signed this for similar reason. So it's basically a case of misinformation, is what it boils down to. As I stated very clearly, I'm in support of Measure 105. However, Measure 105 is not strong enough to actually repeal the sanctuary law. 181 would go away, but there's another House bill to back it. So it's kind of an unfortunate twist.
Yeah, it's what Sheriff Sickler told me about that too. We'll look more into that. Jonathan, if you could give us your take on this too, Measure 105, yay or nay, and just take it away.
I am fully support of 105. One of the jobs I had in my previous employer was I was a 287G officer. So for those who know what that is, or don't know what that is, I'm sorry, the U.S. government had a program called 287G, it was federal code, where local law enforcement officers went to the ICE Academy and were trained as law enforcement ICE officers. So I was a trained and certified Immigrations and Customs Enforcement officer while I worked for Maricopa County. I believe that we are a nation of laws, and the laws apply to everybody within our borders. And those people that cross into our borders are subject to the same laws that you and I are subject to. And one of our laws is if you enter this country illegally, we are going to show you the border. And so I am against the sanctuary state, I'm against the sanctuary city, and I'm against canceling ICE contracts. I would detain them and deport them.
I spent 5, 6, 7 minutes on just this morning show today with a gentleman from Cape Junction who was just telling me or reading me the riot act about lack of patrol. This seems to be a big story in Josephine County. Same with Wolf Creek. Get a lot of people who call from Wolf Creek and will write about that too. What specifically could you do as sheriff, I'll direct it to you first, to bring back those nighttime patrols sooner rather than later? Let's just say it's with the existing resources we have. Let's just go there.
Thank you. I rode with the Cave Junction Patrol a couple of weeks ago, and we sat in the car and watched the people come out from under the rocks, and we watched the drug deals in the parking lots. and we watched the things going down, and I felt sorry that we couldn't pick up the phone. We had young teenagers in Jubilee Park drinking and having a good time, and there was absolutely nobody that we could call to come deal with it. Nighttime coverage, especially in Cave Junction, you know, they have a contract for 40 hours a week. They pay almost $200,000 for that, and they would pay for more, but they're told that we can't do evenings because we don't have enough resources. Well, we do have resources, and I think our deputies need to be working at night. Oregon State Patrol has more people on during the day than they do at night. So let them help us out during the day, when it's also easier for them, by the way, to investigate the crimes that they're investigating. And let's get our deputies, I call it butts in the seat. Let's get our butts in the seat at night, patrolling Josephine County, and let's quit telling the criminals, sorry, we don't have anybody on patrol at night.
Mr. Daniel, you like to take that one too?
Well, I can tell you I'm running the budget, and I know how many personnel we have, and I know what it would take to put nighttime patrols out there right now, and everyone else would suffer during the days when you call in for something that happened over the night or something happened right then. It's not as easy as just that. I wish it was. I wish it was. Otherwise, I'd already be there. But that's something I'm working on right now. It seems to be a priority, obviously, for Mr. Knapp and myself. And so I think that is a good thing for Josephine County. But you can wish upon a star. If you don't have any money to get enough bodies out there and dispatchers in support of that, then you got a problem. And so that's where, I'm going to the Oregon State Police right now to ask them to help me. Oregon State Police is not going to cover any call for service that goes through the Josephine County Sheriff's Office during the day when we have people. They're just not going to do it. They're going to stick to their mission, and they're going to expect us to stick to ours.
Okay, thank you. We'll start with you on the next question here. Is it important to be a constitutional sheriff? Why or why not? Are you a constitutional sheriff? Would you call yourself that?
Yeah, I believe so. I think that the Constitution, that's it. That's at the foundation. That's the basis, and that's where it starts. And that's basically, you look at the immigration laws and the sanctuary state bill that we were talking about. It starts right there. And so, absolutely, I know I support the Constitution. I know I support the laws of the state of Oregon, and I'll enforce them to the best of my ability. I really don't know how else to express my desires for that.
Okay, thank you. Jonathan, can you address the same question? Thank you.
I too am a constitutional sheriff. I am 110% behind the U.S. Constitution. That is the law of our land. Sometimes our states make different laws, such as the Constitution or the sanctuary state law, and we are obligated as sheriffs in the state to obey the state laws and the federal laws. And when they conflict, it makes it very difficult. But the prime document is the U.S. Constitution. And the U.S. Constitution trumps state law, trumps the Josephine County Home Charter, and trumps a city code.
Jonathan, we'll have you start with the next question. Give me your evaluation of how the Josephine County Jail is run and what you would do either the same or differently if you were elected sheriff.
I don't have the inside story on the scoop of how the jail is run because obviously I am not the sheriff and they don't have open house for all kinds of reasons. So I can't tell you that there are drastic things going on in the jail that should not be going on. What I can tell you is that I believe that the jail levy was far more money than we needed to run the jail. So I'd love to say we could give you back some of that money, but that's not the way that jail levy works. But the jail levy is more than sufficient to operate the jail for at least the next 4.5 years. And that freed up a great deal of funds. And I appreciate the fact that the sheriff worked together to get that levy because that did free up the levy for patrol and the other functions. But
you don't want to close the jail, though? Just want to make sure there were some rumors about that.
Absolutely not. There's a rumor that I want to close the jail.
All right.
And that was to fix some misinformation during the levy. During the levy, the statement was made that the sheriff's office is obligated to run a jail. Nowhere in ORS, which is where we get our law, under the duties of the sheriff, is the sheriff required to run a jail. And that was my statement. Doesn't mean I want to close the jail. Doesn't mean there's a better option than the Josephine County Jail. But we are not required in Josephine County Sheriff's Office to run a jail. Grants Pass City Police Department could run that jail.
All right. We're going to have 5-minute closing statements from each candidate now. And Sheriff?
Do I get to answer that question too, or no?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, we'll take a little more time. We'll let you answer that question too, to be fair about that.
It's been an argument over the course of time that do we have to have jail, do we have to have patrols, and I think every other sheriff flip-flops on that particular issue. I disagree with Mr. Knapp. I think we do have to have some place, not necessarily required to run, but you're required to maintain housing for individuals that commit crimes. I've contacted everybody up and down the I-5 corridor. There is no other place to put our Josephine County criminals. From Jackson to Lane to Lincoln to Douglas to Springfield. I've done that research, been down that road. That's why I maintained that we needed to keep a jail up and running. The jail is fun. It's not only working for the deputies, it's working for the state troopers that bring people in. It's bringing people from the city of Grants Pass in. We need to get them in custody. I can tell you we're up to 185. It's a promise made. It was a promise kept right now. The audit comes in October, and all persons, as promised, that are arrested in Josephine County are now being intaked into jail. The deputies, I've hired 16 out of 442 applicants. I need to hire 7 more, and so we're still pretty skinny, but we're keeping our promise.
All right, I'm going to ask one more, take a prerogative here of both of you. I'm going to do a what if, because the Second Amendment question is probably the number one question I get about the Sheriff's Office, no matter where I live, Jackson, Josephine County. We're going to play what if right now, and we'll start with Jonathan, let you both answer this. Yes, we know that there is constitutional law, we have the Supreme Court, we've got the state, we've got the governor, we've got the laws, we've got the current county charter. Let's say the balloon does go up at some point, and we have a point in which you have a president that just says, we're coming after him. It's been talked about openly, we know that. What do you, as a sheriff who respects the Constitution of the United States, do? They're coming after firearms. They're asking you, in law enforcement, to go after it. What do you do?
The Constitution is the law of the land. The Second Amendment says that your right to bear arms shall not be infringed. And that includes by the President of the United States, by the Congress, by the Senate, by the governor, by the city council, by the county commissioners. So if somebody wants to come into Josephine County and take your guns, they're going to have to get in line behind the sheriff and his deputies, because we are not going to let them take your guns.
James, you get the final word on that.
It's not just going to be the sheriffs and deputies stopping them. You want the definition of a well-organized militia, you're going to have it. Because they're not coming to get them. I'm very staunch about that, and that's not going to change in me. I've owned guns since I was 18, and we pump out as many concealed handgun licenses as we can, because I think all the good people in this county should have the ability to defend themselves, and that's where I stand on the second concept.
All right, thank you. We're going to have some wrapping up statements now, and I believe Dave, you'll go first.
Sure.
All right.
Sure. Again, thank you very much. I got 3 minutes, correct, Bill? I want to thank you all very much for coming. This is really important, and I always kind of enjoy these, because I get a good sense of where our county is when I get people in a group like this to talk and be able to ask questions. And that's really what it's all about for me. I'm your sheriff. I'm your sheriff right now. I want to be your sheriff for the next 4 or 6 or 8 or 10 years. And that's my goal. But I want to make sure that I'm doing what you all want me to do. I want to be that person where somebody says, hey, we trust that guy. And I don't think I've given you much reason at this point to reduce that trust level. We've done fantastic things in the Josephine County Sheriff's Office over the last 4 years. Please take a look at some of the literature I have over there, and you'll see that. If you have a car and that motor's running good, why would you pull the motor out and replace it? We're going in the right direction. It's positive. I'm looking at nighttime patrols, which is a huge thing. I got the resident deputies out. We have more deputies on the street now than we have in, 6 years. And so, and in your schools, and just can't say enough about the direction of our sheriff's office. I asked for trust initially, and I've worked on trust. I wanted to show transparency. we're showing transparency. Your sheriff's office has nothing to hide because we are your sheriff's office at the end of the day. And that's my belief, is that I work literally for each and every one of you. I work as hard as I can because my family's in this county as well. I know your brothers and sisters and children are in this county as well. Take it from me that when my kids were in this county as well, that's why I ran for sheriff, was because I saw what was happening, and look what we've done. Look where we're at now. So I ask you on November 6th, please not but elect Dave Daniel for Josephine County Sheriff.
Thank you. ORS has the job description for a sheriff. It's very important that we read that. The very first thing it says is arrest and take to jail those persons that commit public offense. We cannot do that without a fully functioning 24/7 patrol coverage. That has got to be a priority. We've got 12 hours. We need to add 4 more. We need to add 8 more. We need to add 12 at night until eventually one day we have 24/7 throughout the county. If I'm elected as your sheriff, that is my goal, to increase the volunteer opportunities so that volunteers can sign up to answer your phone so that you never get that dial tone, so that volunteers can help walk you through a report, so that volunteers can come out and help take a crime report or collect evidence, so that volunteers can drive a jail wagon to Cave Junction to transport that guy back to the jail so that the deputy in Cave Junction can stay on patrol. Response and performance is what you need in your sheriff's office. And that's what I want to give to you. Your sheriff's office is working. It's working, I've been told, good. My question is, do we want to stop at good, or do we want to move on to better and best? And I would like to make your sheriff's office the best. And that's why I ask for your vote on November 6th. Thank you.
Put your hands together for Mr. Matt, Mr. Daniel. Got a couple of great sheriff's candidates. Thank you very much. Commissioners, come on up. By the way, I want to thank you. You've been a great audience tonight, and you have a lot of great questions in here, too. I almost wish that I had about an hour for each position. We just kind of have to roll through these, so just bear with us. Gentlemen, who ended up winning the toss? Okay, you're going to summarize last, which means you go first, right? Okay.
Hello, thank you.
And just shove it in there and project, right?
Can you hear me now? How about now?
Yeah, you had it on, just louder, that's all.
Can you hear me now?
Flip the switch again.
How about now?
Yes!
There we go. Hey, I'm Ron Smith. I was born here in Josephine County. My family homesteaded and settled in the Illinois Valley 100 years ago. I've been involved in this county for well over 20 years in the community, working hard to protect private property rights and wise stewardship of our public lands. Very important. Was involved in, they tried to turn the whole Siskiyou National Forest into a monument. Does anybody remember that in the year 2000? I was deeply involved in that. We organized a chapter of People for the USA, and we defeated that monument. In the meantime, they declared the Cascade Siskiyou National Monument over in Ashland. You all heard of that one, the one that they had problems with. Okay. I was involved in do you remember when the Klamath farmers lost their water rights? That was a pretty big deal. We helped organize a bucket brigade. We put 20,000 people in the streets. We took bucket after bucket from the head gates to the lake, symbolically showing that the water needed to go to those farmers. That land was lotted out to World War I and World War II veterans. Very important. We were involved in a rally we put on in Medford. We organized 1,500 people showed up, 23 different organizations, supporting wise use of our public forest. So is anybody enjoying these smoky summers we're having? No. So my question to the We just talked about funding the sheriff. All right? Well, for 80 years, we had a fully funded sheriff department. Today, we're burning it up. That funding's out there rotting as we talk. It's called trees. We have hundreds of thousands of trees got burned up this last summer and the summer before that. Why do we want to tax the people higher and higher and not harvest some of that timber? At least the dead timber. That timber's dead. Let's take it to the mills, respond to sheriff instead of asking for people's taxes. Private property, I've been an advocate and a protector of private property for over 20 years here in this county. All kinds of different issues. Mining issues, access issues, road issues. Roads will be huge in the future, guarantee you. Watch me, I'm going to make roads a big deal. All right, because if you can't access a forest, what good is it? These firefighters out here trying to take these fires on found out that the roads are overgrown. They can't get to these areas to fight the fires. That's part of the reason they become so big. So I've been involved in these land use issues, and if you really want to know what a commissioner does, the biggest thing a commissioner does is land use. It's the biggest thing. You want a zoning change, you want a variance, you go to the commissioners. The second biggest thing the commissioner does is ordinances, and that's county law. All right? So those are the two biggest things the county commissioner will do, and those are the things that will affect you. I've been involved in land use issues all my life, it seems like. I've lived here in Josephine County all my adult life. I spent 2 different trips to Washington, D.C. Once when I was a young man, 24 years old, returning from the mission field, I decided I would have a day to kill, so I stopped in Washington, D.C., walked all around D.C. and seen all the sites, the Vietnam Memorial, everything, the Constitution and the Rotunda. And then the second time I was there was when we went to Washington, D.C. to try to find some relief for the Klamath farmers. We took about 10 people there, and we walked all over the Capitol, went into the scene. Hey, you know what? Did you ever see the Senate building? Go look at the Hart Senate building in D.C. It's nothing but marble floors, cherry wood, and walnut walls. But we wouldn't want to mine or log anything, okay? So anyway, we went there trying to find some relief for the farmers, and they're still having that problem. It still isn't answered. So when did we decide that these issues about environment were more important than people? We are the environment. People have worked in the forest all their life. So it's really important. You have a county that's 68% federally owned. Okay? You add the state, county, and city property, that's 73% of the land. You get no tax off that. There is no tax base in Josephine County. So when you're taxing people, you're going to tax 8.7% of the land is a high tax rate. It's not going to work long term. For over 80 years, we had a fully funded sheriff because we harvested trees and replanted our forest, and we didn't burn them up by the hundreds of thousands of acres. That's an important thing. Thank you. So here's the thing. The job description is county commissioner, not city council. So wouldn't you think it would be very important that a commissioner would know his county? I think it's very important. I know Josephine County. I know it like the back of my hand. I've been involved in these issues all my life, all of my adult life. So this is important for us that you're losing the one guy on the board that actually knows about the forest. Simon Hare's gone.
All right, Rob, let me cut you off there. Thank you. And Darren.
Well, first of all, I would like to thank Liberty Watch for putting together this forum, and of course Bill Meyer for hosting or for emceeing the event. And those of you who don't know me, I am Darren Fowler, and I grew up here. I'm the husband of one wife, and after 15 years of working for other entrepreneurs, I started my own business 20 years ago, and I found out it was much harder, but it was very rewarding. And the main thing I learned was how to get along with people. Other tradesmen, banks, inspectors, building departments, but especially the customer, that bill payer. It really is something to be an entrepreneur and feel that capitalism trust happening where you tell somebody you'll do something for a certain amount and then you do it. I also learned how to sign the front and the back of a check. how to organize workloads, scheduling, how to plan for the future, and to enjoy what you're doing. But I also learned by experience that wisdom can come from anyone, from anywhere, and I've learned so much from the people of this community. This county is filled with all kinds of sharp people, and that's one of the things I love about this community. It's the people, their experiences, their passions, their ability to thrive here, their love and respect for their neighbors and friends, and so I got involved. I was already coaching kids, teaching Sunday school. I was involved in church leadership. And 10 years ago, I really caught the bug to get into politics. And I started volunteering in local government. I was on the urban and rural planning commissions. I was on the Grants Pass City Council. And I've been the mayor for the past 6 years of Grants Pass. And I really enjoyed it. Even though it was some of the toughest times that our county and our city had to go through. We had to come up with inventive ways to put people in jail, to buy jail beds. We had to try and help deal with the juvenile justice diminished down to almost nothing. Just 3 available beds in Medford. And we had limited resources that whole time, but it really produced an opportunity for some leadership. And Dan DeYoung and Lily Morgan were there on the city council with me, solving those problems, learning how government works. And that leads me to today. And as your commissioner candidate, I'm willing to change careers. At an interesting time in my life, after 30 years in the trades, I'm willing to change careers and serve my fellow Americans. And I want to help our county towards that bright future that I know you guys hope for. And I want to fight for our right to a good life here, for liberty and the pursuit of happiness. And I believe that my experience volunteering is the difference between the 2 candidates you see here. And I have a record that reflects my view of representative government, which means you didn't elect me because you agree with my views. It's because you know I'll represent you, but I'll represent the community that I live in, that I raised a family in, started a career and a small business, and I would find solutions that benefit the majority of the citizens. And I'd face every issue with honesty, integrity, and intense work ethic, what I call proven leadership. I want to thank you for this opportunity to speak with you tonight, and I want to be your representative at the County Commissioner's office. Thank you.
Okay, folks, Ron Smith now gets to ask a question of Darren. 30 seconds to ask, 1.5 minutes up to that for a response.
Okay, Darren, as quoted in the IV News, you said the county should develop the snow park on Page Mountain, which is federally owned. I don't know how the county does that. You also said that there was ample property to build horse trails, biking trails, and hiking trails throughout the Illinois Valley. Do you understand our county?
Interesting, because I never said either one of those things. Yeah, the paper has been known to be wrong, but I never said anything about the snow park. I never said anything about biking and trails in the Illinois Valley. But I do know that living here for all but 4 years of my life, I've learned. I've lived in the county. My parents live in the county. My in-laws live in the county. Like I said, I lived there when I was younger. But because the city is so unique to the county, that we are not an isolated entity at the city. We understand county issues, especially after the last 8-10 years of going through a recession, going through limited funding for government, and seeing how the county reacted to that wasn't one of the main reasons I got involved. And so I think that this county is poised for some really great future events, and that families and that people will want to stay here and not leave. And so I'm looking forward to representing the whole county and representing those communities that maybe we don't know as well, but I want to get to know them. I want to go to your meetings. I want to go to the city council meetings out in Cave Junction. I want to find out what you are aiming towards and help you get there. That's what I promise to do.
All right. Darren, you get a chance to ask a question of Ron now.
Well, 10 years ago, I started at the bottom of the political ladder. I worked my way up, sitting on over a dozen committees and councils, learning the ropes, networking, learning government, budgeting, and the like. I've given countless hours of my time to do so while still working 50 to 60 hours a week and running a small business. You have had no political experience, so why do you feel that you would be a success in this position?
I don't think politics is the answer. I think ethics and morals are important. I've been involved in this county volunteering. I'm the vice chair of the Fruitvale Grange. I am a member of the Redwood Lions Club. I'm a member of the Pomona Granges, which is all the Granges in Josephine County. So I've spent my time volunteering. I spent countless hours in front of the Board of Commissioners and dealing with the Board of Commissioners on important issues. I've been involved in politics. I just haven't been on the other side of the fence. I've been involved in politics on the side that counts, the people's side, not the politician's side. I'm not a tax and spend politician, like some people I know. So I'm not a politician. I'm a guy that wants to serve Josephine County. My grandchildren are here, my children are here, and I hope to make this a better place for my great-grandchildren to grow up. But we're going to have to take control, and we're going to have the forest stop burning. We got to stop the smoke, fully fund the sheriff, and we got to do something to alleviate the housing crisis we have in this county. That's why I'm running. I'm not running as a politician. I'm running as a servant of the people to have your will expressed through county government. Thank you.
All right. We'll move along now with a few questions from the audience, and ones I'm going to formulate too. A very common grumble that I get about the current Grants Pass, well, that's just it. They term it the Grants Pass County Commission, is how it gets determined. And that's from people that I hear from rural Josephine County. It's them, it's not me. How would you, we'll start with you, Ron, how would you be a true Josephine County Commissioner?
First and foremost, I lived most of my adult life in Illinois Valley. I know the Illinois Valley like the back of my hand, and honest to God, I think it's a big part of the future of the county. If you look at the demographics, if you look at the urban growth around the Cave Junction, the Illinois Valley is very important. These outlying communities are the backbone of this place. The problem we have with housing is a city problem. Not only Grants Pass City, but Cave Junction, because it's not going to be answered by the county. The county is a big area, 1,641 square miles. Okay, those people in the outlying communities need to have their voices heard too. I would on a regular basis, and I do right now, I go out to the Illinois Valley quite frequently and talk to people. But go to Williams, Wolf Creek, Murphy. These are all part of the county. As a county commissioner, I have nothing, very little to say about what goes on in the city of Grants Pass or the city of Cave Junction. What I deal with as a county commissioner is everything else. And a lot of it's going to revolve around the forest issues. You've got to understand the forest issues. You've got to understand the federal laws to control the forest. So representing the people is really the foremost thing. You got to get out and talk to people. You got to get out and listen to people. That's what I would do to be a representative.
All right, thank you, Ron. Darren?
Well, I say you never know where leadership is going to come from, and you wouldn't discount anybody for where they live. And like I said before, we are so intertwined as a city and a county that we know each other's problems. And it's not a matter of knowing every nuance in between every community and every political bent of the areas. It's really getting to know the people and finding out what they want and helping them get there. That's what representative government is. And that's what I plan to do. I've got good friends and relatives that live outside of the city of Grants Pass. And we talk about the issues because they know that I'm interested in it. And that's over the last 10, 12 years, not just subjective talking about it, but actually being in a position to do something about it. The county has addressed the housing problem by changing the rules to allow accessory dwelling units, just like the city. They're allowing other opportunities to put more people on one piece of property in the county. They may receive some resistance from the state of Oregon because of that, but I think it was a step in the right direction. That's the way America lives now. They need to have that mother-in-law flat, or for their kids, or for a rental, so that they can plan for their own future. And so I think that where you came from says a lot about who you are, but it's not the only thing. It's, are you good at solving problems? Are you good at listening? Are you good at finding the information that'll help you make a good decision? And I think that over the past decade or so, I have learned to do that in so many different ways, and learned it from so many talented folks, that I'm ready to take on this fight. And sometimes I wake up at 3 a.m. going, how in the heck is this county going to benefit from me being in office? And I'm just comforted in the fact that I'm one of you. I grew up here. I have a business or work just like you. I've raised my family here. And so we are going to work this thing out. We're going to find out what the problems are, and we're going to attack them.
All right. Gary, you can go ahead and stay up there, because we'll have you start the next question. Let it burn, folks, is real. We talked about it a lot. A lot of meetings have been going on about this. It's been around since 1995. Federal policy is still in effect. We know that. I know people will say it doesn't exist. They're lying to you. Okay? That being said, what, if you are elected county commissioner, what is your action plan to get together with feds and end this misery that Josephine County and our surrounding communities are experiencing?
Well, I hate to start with a fire joke, but you have to strike while the iron's hot. And after four out of the last 5 years having smoky summers, we're tired of it. And so we need to organize the counties, as we did for the timber and resource fight. Organize them to get better policies out of the federal government. And now the federal government is actually friendly to changing some of those administrative rules that were put in place 25 years ago and less than that with our last president. And so I think now is the time to push forward on those things. Get the coalition of counties that are affected by this and state your case about the loss in tourism dollars, the loss of resources that we're not able to log, even the burnt logs, and to get those roads maintained so that we can get back in there. We need to have faster response to the initial flame up, like they did on Jones Creek near Grants Pass and I-5. They had that thing put out within 4 or 5 hours, or totally managed. And that's the kind of response we need to have to every fire that starts. Even if they're in difficult places, we have the technology to fight those. And so now's the time to gather the steam, to get the evidence from the local businesses that the effect the fire has on them, and use that to get the policies changed back to our advantage, back to the level playing field. We don't want a handout from the federal government. We know how to work. We know how to pay taxes. That's what we'd rather do. We don't want the handout, but if you won't give us permission, then we want the money. And that's what we have to fight for.
Thank you, Darren. Ron, what's your action plan? Sorry, I'm keeping it moving, folks, okay?
When this county was formed, all the property inside that line was county land. When the Forest Reserve, which morphed into the National Forest, was made, there was a promise made to us. The promise was, we know we're taking your tax base, so we're going to make payment in lieu of taxes in one form or another, whether it be the ONC lands or harvest off the National Forest. There's 2 laws that require the federal agencies to coordinate with local county governments: the National Environmental Protection Act and the Federal Lands Management Policy Act. Both those laws require that when they make a forest plan, and they're getting ready to redo the Northwest Forest Plan, which has been very dreadful for the Northwest. So they're required to sit down and coordinate with the county. We need to force them to the coordination table. This is ultimately important, but we have to do our due diligence at the county level and make sure we address our comprehensive plan, so that when we get them to the coordination table, we can have our plan implemented. This is ultimately important for the long-term benefit of Josephine County, to reduce the fire, to reduce the smoke, to produce from the ground again that funds our sheriff. All of these things are going to come about through a coordination process. There's a change in the wind coming out of D.C. that I haven't seen in 30 years. They're actually asking what we think out here in the West. What do we think about the problem we're having with the forest fires? What do we think about our economic downturns? I haven't heard that in 30 years. And I'm so excited that actually now is the time to push forward with this coordination issue. There's a way. When you go into a negotiation, that's what we're talking about, negotiation with the federal agencies, you cannot go in from a position of weakness. So what's the lever that the county's going to use? It's roads. And I'm not going to go into this issue too deep because it's pretty deep. There's an old statute that says RS 2477. Those roads are our leverage to force these guys to the coordination table. And if you want to know more about what I just said, you can ask me anytime. So we have to force them to the coordination table. That's the answer. We have some help at DC, which we haven't had for 30 years. Now's the time to push forward as a county.
All right, we'll start the next question too. All right, Jackson County getting chewed up with a controversy over the smart meter implementation from Pacific Power. I probably have about 15 questions in this stack in here, so we're going to talk about that for a little bit here. As County Commissioner, Ron, what would you do to interpose and get the PUC to listen to the concerns of the people? Because there seem to be many.
I think that's a very important issue. I don't know how many of you have studied smart meters. It's not good, okay? I got a friend who's an electrical engineer. I've been working on the smart grid for 10 years. It's all about controlling energy. It's all about controlling energy. But the smart meters, I don't know if you guys know about these things, but they can actually catch on fire quite readily, and they have a habit of overcharging you 500 or 600%. They're not a good thing. So I don't understand why. PP&L just backed down a little bit on the funding of that. As a county commissioner, I would be an advocate for the people's will. What the people want, I would listen to them and express that. There's a lot of things the commissioner doesn't have control over. But one thing I have control over is advocating for the people's rights, for property rights, for reducing the crime, for reducing the smoke. I can advocate for that. From the bully pulpit, as one president said, you can advocate for a lot of things. Can I affect them? Yeah, a lot of times it's just talking about stuff that makes a difference. Bringing it to people's mind, keeping the pressure on, like meth and heroin. How come nobody talks about that anymore? Meth and heroin is killing our county, it's killing our youth. It's creating a lot of homelessness and a lot of the drug problems. So advocating is important. So I would continue to advocate for force issues, for stopping the crime, stopping the smoke. I would be your voice at that table.
All right, thank you, Ron. Darren, you want to handle the smart meter interposition?
Sure. As some of you know, I'm an electrical contractor, so I actually get to play around the meter base every now and then. I'm surprised our county got so blindsided by this. Why was there not advance warning to the commissioner's office? Why was there not advance warning to the customers? We really feel blindsided, and the community's scrambling to come up with a response for that. And I think the response from the commissioner's office has been a little weak. They haven't held a single forum to find out where the public's at. And so I'm curious as to why they weren't prepared for this. And I know that there's smart meters. I've been in California for quite a while now. I know that the technology's there, and some of it's misunderstood, and some of it is totally understood. And so I understand your fears, but we need to get to the bottom of it, not at the 11th hour like we're trying to now, but we should have been ahead of this one from the beginning. And obviously the main arguments are the opt-out fees are incredibly unfair. Why can't you read your own meter and they can come once a year? How hard would it be? And so I feel like those are the kind of things that the county commissioners should be anticipating, that there's stuff coming down the pipe. That's their job. They're representing you and supposed to find out things that you don't have time to find out in your daily life. And so as the county commissioner, I'm going to try and keep us from being blindsided like this again, because that doesn't help anyone. And then we don't have time to prepare an intelligent argument. We have to rely on what we can scramble with. And I think we could have done a much better job. I think the PUC's giving us our day or an extra day, but they're not going to change their trajectory easily. And so this ship has nearly sailed. And I don't know if we can get the fees changed. That's where the fight's at now. I think the smart meters are coming. But those fees for opting out are just completely unreasonable and unfair. And they need to answer that intelligently.
All right, thank you. Darren, we'll start the next question too. Darren, Should urban growth or county residents be able to get a vote on whether they are annexed into a city? Yes or no? These are going to be quick ones for both of you. I'm just going to fire it off. Someone sent that to me.
Well, I totally believe they should get a vote because changing your situation without representation is one of the basic principles. But when I tried to push for that, there's only like one county in the USA that has it right now, and it's a vacation community in Tennessee. And they got it because half the people don't live there half the year. There's snowbirds there. It's one of those kind of cities. But it just seems that it is unfair to ask you to, or change your tax rate without your permission. And so we could try and fight that fight, but I've heard that, of course, we live in a blue state, that it's a very tough fight to win because other communities have tried and haven't come away successful.
You know, it's really funny that question should come up. There was an annexing a property over by the Grants Pass Golf Course, about 120 homes. 8 people, they didn't have enough consents. You got to have about 60% consent forms to annex, okay? They didn't have enough consent forms to annex that property in. So 8 people lawyered up, tried to stop the city from annexing them because they didn't want to see their taxes tripled. Well, the city pushed forward regardlessly. And what's funny about that is where they drew the line. That was a whole street, and you go up, you take a left, and you go into a little cul-de-sac, and there's about 10 homes there. When they drew that line, they excluded that cul-de-sac. Unfortunately, Aaron Father's house within that cul-de-sac, one house from the line. So annexing, yeah, should they have a voice? Yes, they should have a voice. Should it be done honestly? Yes. Maybe he wants to answer why his father's house was not included in an annex.
All right, let's take that. Next question we will have, and Ron, you'll start this one. Along with smart meters and taxes, we haven't touched taxes yet, have we? The homeless, panhandling, the bum rush in Josephine, Jackson County too for that matter. What is your plan for what county role do you think should be played in alleviating the homeless issues that Josephine County does have?
Well, it's a nationwide problem. Go to Seattle and go to LA and look at what the problem they have. So it's a nationwide problem. Most of it stems from our meth and heroin, that problem, and a tad bit of affordable housing. But I think the vast majority of these guys is from meth and heroin. So right back to fully funding the sheriff. Fully fund the sheriff and seriously go after the meth and heroin problem. That's going to go a long ways to cut down on the homeless problem. These guys that want to get treatment, there's plenty of treatment programs out here. Most of the burglary, most of the crime in this county is caused from meth and heroin addicts. It's trying to get their money for their fix. They can't hold a job because they're addicted. So it really boils down to funding the sheriff, going after the drug dealers, the people bringing the heroin in, the people manufacturing the meth here. I think we've become a major exporter of meth, this county has, which is a disgrace, okay? We have to go after those people. And the way you do that is you get the little guy, and he squeaks and squeaks and squeaks, and finally you get the big guy that's doing this meth and heroin. I would like to see a lot more attention paid to that issue of going after the meth and heroin. I think that'll go a long ways to solving some, but maybe not all of our homeless problem. Affordable housing would help. Apartment buildings. The biggest apartment complex in Josephine County was Riverwoods. It was bought by a California company and doubled the rent overnight. Doubled the rent overnight. I had several calls from people because they just couldn't afford that rent. So why have we not built some larger apartment complexes in Grants Pass and in Cape Junction? That'll go a long ways to affordable housing. I know why we haven't, but anyway.
All right. Thank you, Ron. And Darren, how would you then attack homeless housing issues there too? Go ahead.
Well, let me just loop back and answer the question about my dad's house. That was determined by a 5-year-long process of a committee that recommended the lines. Then the state approved those lines. Then the city council had a choice to vote on it or not, and I did not vote as mayor, so I was not in that process. When it came up towards the vote, someone mentioned that my dad's property is outside. I went, really? I didn't even look to see if it was. So I certainly didn't have personal advantage for my family in mind. Homelessness is a misnomer to me, because we really, when we're talking homelessness, let's talk about homeless. Because homeless people have a different set of problems than transients and vagrants, or hobos is the old word. And so if you're homeless and circumstances are against you, but you're trying to get out of those circumstances to get back into a home, then let's address that separately than we're talking about the transient vagrant problem that we have. Our city has done so much to try and combat that, but the horses were already out of the gate, or all the feathers were out of the pillow, whatever you want to call it. And it's the climate, so apparently they like it here. But we've developed nuisance intervention teams to go through downtown before the business owners get down there to make sure there's no one sleeping in front of your business. We've also worked with service providers to change their business model, like St. Vincent de Paul. We helped them get a mobile food cart so people wouldn't be in downtown, and they're now helping in a better way to people that actually need it at local church parking lots and other areas instead of that downtown business. So we've tried some things. We started a sobering center, first in the state that had that designation, got it pushed through the legislature and got it up and running, and it's functioning very well now as a place to take people who haven't broken any laws, because it's okay to be drunk in Oregon and walking around. But as soon as you commit a crime, then they can arrest you. But where do we put these people that are drunk or on some other drug? The sobering center works, and there's treatment options coming out of there. And so the city has addressed this, but it's one of those problems that the community has to take on. We have too many people handing out free junk out their window and enabling these people to live in the cracks of our society without getting involved and being participating members. And so it's a tough one. You've got churches that have their best heart in mind, that are trying to help people, but are they really when they're just handing stuff out the door? And so that's the crux of the problem for me. We need to change the mindset that, hey, if I want to help you, then I'm going to take some steps and volunteer, or get in an organization that helps people that are in trouble like you, or choosing to be living outside of society's lines. Let's do the volunteerism and not just hand free stuff out the window. That's where I think we're missing the solution, is right there.
Thank you, Darren. All right, we're running quickly out of time. I want to get one more in. There's a 200, 250 billion, 300 billion, who knows what the real count is. And we'll have you start off with this one too. The gorilla in the room, which is the underfunded PERS mandate. Every government employer is having to deal with this. You probably could not cut Josephine County's budget to prosperity enough in order to pay it. Without raising taxes, the T word, nobody wants to hear that, we all know that. What is a potential revenue stream that you as a county commissioner might be open to explore, because we know we're going to have to pay these bills? Any thoughts? Darren, we'll let you take a crack at that.
Yeah, it's one of those problems you really hope not to inherit, that was started by someone else and allowed to run free so long that they were getting an unfair advantage. And that Tier 1 PERS is the one that's killing us, the one that's choking the whole PERS system. And cities like Grants Pass have done well to save money on the side to try and deal with that PERS bubble of Tier 1, and negotiated Tier 2 and Tier 3 with the union negotiations to make sure that we're doing the best we can for the future to keep those costs down. There also was an opportunity to let employees share in the health insurance, and I think that's a possibility for the county in the future negotiations, that you need to work in other ways to save money so that you have the money to pay the PERS liability that you have. The county can also run out the clock. They had such low funding that many employees were either let go or left to find a more stable environment for their career. And that helped, because some of those were the Tier 1 ones, and hopefully they transferred to another community that can take their liability. But that kind of helped the county move in a different direction, because they didn't have to choose to do that. The voters decided there wasn't a need to fund at that level, so let's see what the county can do at that low funding level. And I think that did change the PERS liability for our county. Now, it's still a problem, and we need to address it, but there's no golden goose that's going to solve that problem. It's just going to take some discipline and running out the clock till that Tier 1 pool is empty.
Thanks, Darren. Ron, you want to take a crack at that? Any revenue stream that might come to mind? And
Trees? Could we use trees? I mean, really? I mean, they're dead. They're out there, they're built up. Why not trees? I mean, it only funded the county for 80 years. So why did we kick them to the curb? Because there's a few extreme environmentalists out there that think you shouldn't cut a tree. Well, wait a second. They're dead. They're dead. That will fund it. It really will. As far as PERS go, first thing I do is I wouldn't let the county commissioners who are vested in PERS negotiate the contract. That doesn't sound right to me. You know, it's like having the fox watch the hen house. Come on here. So that's the first thing I do. That should be an open process. It shouldn't be behind closed doors, okay? But revenue streams, we're Josephine County. We're not Jackson County. Have you ever looked at the difference between Josephine County and Jackson County? It's like night and day, okay? We have a very small commercial industrialized base. I could take all the commercialized land, all the industrial land in Josephine County, put it in one hump, take it over to White City, plop it on Boise Cascade lot that wouldn't even cover a quarter of the lot. We're not Jackson County. We don't have a huge tax base. They have a huge tax base. Revenue streams. What's made Josephine County? How come a county that has billions and billions of dollars of mineral does not have one working mine? How come a county that has thousands of beautiful trees out there, in fact we have too many trees, how come we're not harvesting? How come we don't have a sawmill when one time we had 30? We've got to stand up and defend the producers from the ground. Producing from the ground, it doesn't matter if you're a New England fishing village, an Iowa farm town, a Nevada mining camp, or an Oregon timber town. The day that you stop producing that commodity, that resource that built your community is the day you start to die. That's what we're struggling through in this county. It's time to realize that and stand up. Revenue streams, trees are the answer.
All right.
Some other things can be part of it.
Okay. Ron, you might as well stand up there because it's your turn, I guess, to close, and then Darren Powell will close.
All right.
Closing comments.
The job description is county commissioner, not city council. You need balance on that board. You already have 2 former city councilors who served with my opponent. You need balance on the board. You need somebody who understands county issues. You need somebody who's out in the county, who's been in the county, who knows this county like the back of his hand, who's talked to the people in the rural areas, who understands Forest Service, who understands BLM, who understands the miners and the loggers. That's me. I know this stuff. I've been living it all my life. So the job description is county commissioner. So you got to understand the county. Josephine County established 1856. All right. The first 2 county seats, the first one was Waldo, a mining community. The second was Kirby, a mining community. But the railroads came through, 1880, it was Grants Pass. Those outlying communities are so important to the lifeblood of our county. That's why it's a county commissioner, not a city council's job. All right? So you want somebody who really, really understands the county. I do. Family's been here 100 years. They were loggers, farmers, ranchers, miners. I've had mining claims. The miners all support me. Why don't we have a working mine in our county, producing jobs, high-paying jobs, long-term jobs? How come we don't have a sawmill in our county producing lumber that the nation needs, producing good-paying jobs? I know my family, several of them lived and raised their whole family off the Rough and Ready sawmill. Now it's gone. All right. We can still benefit from those trees because the ONC lands, we're number 3 on the dole out for ONC. In other words, we're the 3rd highest the county is. So when those ONC cuts come in, we get a hunk of money. All right. When it's harvest off the national forest land, we pay for our schools and our roads. You've got to understand the issues that confront a county commissioner on a daily basis. I do understand those things. I know very well.
Well, our county has faced some big problems. And one of my biggest disappointments is that when the ONC changed back in the 90s, our county commissioners didn't fight. They just said, oh, this money will last forever. These payment in lieu of taxes. And it didn't last forever. So the federal government's not keeping up their part of the bargain. Either give us permission to do the work that we know how to do in the forest, in the mine, or give us the money. And I think it's the lawsuit that Simon Hare helped spearhead with a coalition of counties is really where the fight is right now. And we have a friendly federal government in some respects to this issue, more than there has been since the 90s. And so I think that we can work through that problem, but timber and mining is not the only answer. The cannabis industry needs to pay their fair share and not just come take our resources for their own advantage. That's a possibility, but you can't pick winners and losers. So are you going to also tax the vineyard? And so it's a squirrely one. But Dave Daniels' idea that was reasonably successful to get the marijuana task force is another way to get help in that regard. We don't have to take it necessarily from the plant grower or the processor. We need to take it from the revenue that's already there at the state that they're using for God knows what, when we're the ones having the trouble from the problem they created. And so, as your county commissioner, I look forward to help solving those kind of problems. And I've really enjoyed raising my family here, starting a business here, getting to know so many of the community members, and I'm looking forward to living out my life here. And if county commissioner is one of those temporary jobs, I'm not sure yet. Maybe we'll talk myself right out of a job and we'll change the structure of county government so that there isn't 3 commissioners, that maybe there was a professional manager in some other structure. Because it has shown to be difficult in the past to have 3 commissioners there. And I'd be willing to cut my own throat on that, if that's what it comes to, if that's what the citizens want. I think that question should at least be vetted out and asked. It may be answered one way or the other, but I think it should be asked. And so I'm looking forward to this complex fight. And I have the experience from all my volunteerism at the city to do the job. I've got a lot of inroads with ODOT, with the Oregon League of Cities, the Oregon League of Counties. I've got ideas that have really come out of Bend and come out of Klamath and other areas that I think we can implement here. And so if we all work on this together, if we decide what direction we're going to go, then I'm going to be the one to help you get there. I've done it for years now, and I want to do it in the future.
Ladies and gentlemen, give a big hand to your next county commissioner, one or the other. I just want to thank you all for putting up with us all tonight and writing some great questions. I'm sorry I didn't get to all of them. We probably could have gone another 2 or 3 hours looking at the stack of questions. We try to get to the most salient ones possible. This is an opportunity, though, for a few minutes. You could talk with these candidates, maybe ask a few questions, and maybe get some more answered for tomorrow. We'll be talking about this with Josephine County listeners over the next few weeks on KCMD, and we certainly hope to have you there. Put your hands together for Liberty Watch of Josephine County, too, for putting this on. Have a great night, Will Meyer from KCMD. We'll catch you on the radio tomorrow, and call me and tell me what you think about it all tonight, all right? You be well. Yeah, we have information on the tables on each side, too. Over there? There? Okay, great. I think I would have charged better.